My parents didn't notice I moved states, busy spoiling their golden sister until my $2 billion empire hit TV. My parents like to tell people they raised two strong daughters. They say it the way you say something you've memorized for interviews. They're good at that. Polished sentences, smiling in the right places, turning every story into proof that our family is close, supportive, and, most importantly, successful. If you met them at a neighbor's barbecue, you'd think they were generous people. You'd hear my mom laugh and assume it meant warmth. You'd watch my dad slap someone on the back and think it meant loyalty. It's not that they're monsters, it's just that they keep their love on a ledger, and the math has never worked out in my favor. My older sister, Selena, has always been the sum they were proud to show. When I was 9, Selena was a varsity cheerleader with a white smile and a practiced walk. When I was 9, I was the kid who learned how to be small in photographs. If the camera came out, I stepped half a pace back so Selena could be centered without anyone asking me to move. She didn't have to ask. Selena learned early what my parents wanted: shine. A story that looked good in public. She gave it to them like a service, and they paid her in attention. If Selena needed a car, my dad found a way. If Selena wanted a destination birthday, my mom made it happen. If Selena broke up with someone, the entire house went into emotional lockdown, whispering, comfort food, fresh flowers, as if a storm warning had gone off. When I got accepted into my first-choice college on a partial scholarship, my mom patted my shoulder and said, "That's nice, honey," then turned back to Selena's phone call because Selena was upset about an argument with her roommate. That pattern didn't change. It just became more refined. By the time I was 25, I lived in the same city as my parents, 40 minutes away if traffic behaved. I worked a quiet job in operations at a logistics company, the kind of role people never mention when they tell their friends what their kid does. I didn't mind. I liked systems. I liked numbers. I liked the feeling of making something run smoothly without needing applause. My parents didn't understand that kind of satisfaction. They understood applause. Selena understood it better than anyone. She was 30 and still living like the world owed her a stage. She bounced between projects, always introduced as in the entertainment space or in lifestyle branding. She posted photos in expensive restaurants with captions about manifesting and alignment. She didn't pay for most of it. My parents did. They called it helping her build. They called it investing in her future. They called it what family does. And whenever money went out the door for Selena, a quiet pressure came toward me. Not a request, a suggestion, dressed up as obligation. "You're so responsible," my mom would say, voice soft like praise, eyes sharp like a hook. "You don't need much. You're not high maintenance like your sister." That sentence always landed the same way. It wasn't admiration, it was permission to neglect me. The first time I realized how complete their blindness was, it happened in my own kitchen. It was a Wednesday in late March, the kind where the sun looks warm but the air still bites. I had gotten home from work with a grocery bag in one hand and my laptop bag in the other. My phone buzzed while I was rinsing strawberries.
"Mom," I wiped my hands and answered.
"Hi," I said. Her voice sounded busy, like she was flipping through something.
"I need you to do me a favor, okay?"
"Selena's rent is due Friday. We're moving some money around because your father's bonus is delayed. Can you front it? Just for a week?" she said. Front it, like she was asking to borrow a pen. I stared at the strawberries. Water dripped down into the sink. "How much?" I asked. $2,800? I didn't react. I didn't sigh. I didn't let my voice change. "Send me the landlord info," I said. "See, this is why you're my steady girl," my mom said, and I could hear the smile. "I don't know what I'd do without you." As soon as the call ended, my phone pinged again. A group text. "Family!" Selena had dropped a selfie. Perfect hair, glossy lips, dramatic angle. Caption, "So grateful for my support system. Couldn't do this life without you guys." Under it, my mom typed, "Anything for you, Angel." My dad added a heart emoji, the kind he never used anywhere else. I set the phone down and finished rinsing the strawberries. Then I opened my laptop and made a folder. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted to get them back. Because I was done being surprised. I named it Receipts. At first it felt ridiculous, like paranoia. Like something only angry people did. But I wasn't angry. I was observant. I created subfolders: rent, car, medical, trips, gifts, texts, emails. I went back through the last year. It didn't take long. Zelle transfers, Venmo notes. Screenshots of, "Can you just," messages from my mom. Email threads from Selena where she wrote, "I'm short this month," like a recurring weather forecast. I added dates, amounts, copies of confirmations. By midnight, I had a spreadsheet. It wasn't dramatic, it was clean. Columns and totals. Facts that didn't care about feelings. A number sat at the bottom in bold, $47,360. That was what I'd quietly covered for Selena in 12 months. I closed the laptop and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up early and went to work. I moved through my day like normal. Meetings, reports, a quick lunch at my desk. I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity, because once you see the pattern, you can stop expecting it to turn into something else. A few weeks later, my parents hosted a brunch. They called it a family reset because Selena had been going through a lot and my mom wanted us together. Their house was the same as always: beige walls, carefully staged throw pillows, the kind of framed quotes people buy when they want their home to look like a good decision. On the dining table, my mom had arranged pastries from a local bakery and a bowl of fruit she would not eat. My dad wore his weekend sweater like a uniform. Selena showed up 40 minutes late, wearing sunglasses inside and carrying a small designer bag like it was an extension of her hand. "Sorry, traffic," she said, even though she lived 10 minutes away. My mom rushed to her, like a child had returned from war. "Honey, honey!" "Are you okay?" Selena kissed her cheek. "It's been crazy. I'm exhausted." My dad pulled out her chair. No one pulled out mine. I sat, folded my napkin, and watched. Selena talked for most of the meal. She described a new opportunity that was basically huge. It involved a reality show audition, a wellness partnership, and a major brand that she couldn't name yet. My mom nodded along like Selena was reciting scripture. My dad asked questions that sounded supportive but weren't actually specific. "That's great, sweetie. You deserve it." Then my mom turned to me, finally. "And you're still at that same job?" "Yes," I said. She frowned slightly, not out of concern, more like disappointment. You know you don't want to get stuck. "I'm not stuck," I said. Selena laughed softly. She likes her little spreadsheets. It was said like a joke, casual, family-style teasing. My dad chuckled. "Well, someone has to be the sensible one." Sensible. Steady. Reliable. The words that meant I was convenient. Later, while my mom cut slices of lemon loaf, Selena leaned across the table and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm going to need you again." I looked at her, calm. "For what?" "My credit card got flagged, and I have this payment due," she said, lowering her voice like we were co-conspirators. "I'll pay you back when my stuff comes through. Just spot me." My mom overheard and didn't even pretend not to. "It's okay, honey," she said to Selena, then to me. "You can do it, right?" "You have savings." The way she said it made it sound like my savings belonged to the family, and Selena was simply the one appointed to use them. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't ask why my parents, who owned a house in a gated neighborhood, needed their younger daughter to cover their older daughter's lifestyle. I just said, "Text me the details." Selena smiled, satisfied. "Knew I could count on you." After brunch, my mom hugged me at the door. She held on for a second longer than usual, like she wanted the hug to substitute for everything else. "Don't take your sister's comments personally," she said quietly. "She's under stress." "I'm fine," I said. My mom pulled back and studied my face, like she was checking for signs of disobedience. "You know we're proud of you, too." It didn't sound like pride. It sounded like damage control. I drove home, hands steady on the wheel. That night, I added the brunch to my spreadsheet. Date, request, amount. Then I opened another folder. Lease. And I dragged in a PDF I'd been emailed earlier that week. Because while my family was busy applauding Selena's imaginary future, I'd signed a lease in another state. A real contract. A real plan, not an opportunity. I'd accepted an offer that came with equity. I'd been building something quietly for years, first as a side project, then as a real company with real clients and real growth. I didn't talk about it at brunch because they didn't ask the right questions, and I didn't volunteer answers to people who treated my life like background noise. I didn't tell them I was leaving, not because I wanted to punish them, because I wanted to see, with full certainty, how little attention it took for them not to notice. 2 weeks later, on a Friday morning, I packed my apartment into a rented U-Haul. I loaded boxes in silence. I taped the last one shut, wrote kitchen on the side, and wiped my hands on my jeans. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "Do you still have that Zelle confirmation?" Selena says it didn't go through. I looked at the screen for a long moment, then opened my receipts folder and pulled up the screenshot. I sent it. Then I climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine and pulled onto the highway, crossing the state line before noon. And no one called to ask where I was going. The first week after I moved, my phone stayed quiet in a way that felt instructional. No. Did you get there safe? No. What's your new address? No. When are you coming back? Just transactions. Monday morning, my mom texted, asking if I could quickly call Selena's insurance company because Selena was overwhelmed. Wednesday, my dad forwarded an email thread about a disputed charge on Selena's card and asked if I could take a look since you're good with this stuff. Friday, Selena sent a voice note, breathy, rushed, about a deposit she needed to secure a time-sensitive opportunity. They didn't know I was 3 states away. They didn't know my view was different. They didn't know I'd driven 16 hours alone with podcasts and spreadsheets and a very clear sense of where my energy was going next.
I didn't correct them, I responded calmly.
When it made sense, I helped. When it didn't, I said I'd look into it and didn't follow up. I never explained. I never justified. I let silence do the work that arguing used to do. In my new city, my days were full in a way that didn't ask for performance. I worked out of a small office with glass walls and people who spoke in numbers and timelines instead of affirmations. The company I'd helped build over the past 4 years, quietly, methodically, had crossed a threshold while I was packing boxes. We weren't a startup anymore, we were infrastructure. Our platform handled supply chain optimization for mid-size manufacturers who didn't make headlines but kept shelves stocked. No flashy branding. No influencer campaigns. Just contracts, renewals, and growth that compounded because the system worked. I was the COO on paper. In practice, I was the person who noticed where things leaked and sealed them before anyone panicked. That included my family. Every message from home went into a log, not out of spite, out of habit. I created a timeline, dates of requests, amounts, tone. I saved audio files. I exported text threads. I took screenshots the moment a message arrived, before it could be edited or unsent. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Even my partners didn't know the full extent of my family situation. They knew my parents existed. They knew I had a sister. They knew nothing else. At work, I was known for not over-explaining. That translated well. About a month after the move, Selena called me directly. Not a text, not a voice note, a call. I answered on the 3rd ring. "Hey," she said, drawing the word out, "where have you been?" "At work," I said. She laughed lightly. "Always." Listen, I'm in a bit of a bind. I waited. She filled the silence like she always did. "So the brand I told you about? They're interested, but they need proof of concept, which means I need to front some costs." "How much?" I asked. "Not crazy," she said quickly. "Just 12,000. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious." I looked at the window. The city below moved without urgency. "Send me the proposal," I said. There was a pause. "It's not formal yet." "Then no," I said evenly. She scoffed. "Wow. Okay, guess success really went to your head." I didn't respond. She kept going. Mom said you've been weird lately." Distant. "I moved," I said. Silence. "You what?" she asked. "I moved," I repeated. "When?" "Last month." She laughed again, but this time it missed the mark. "You're joking?" "I'm not." Another pause. I could hear her recalibrating. "Well, you could have told us," she said. "You didn't ask," I said. She hung up without saying goodbye. That night my mom called. "Why didn't you tell us you moved?" she asked, not angry, confused. As if I'd rearranged the furniture without permission. "I assumed you knew," I said. "How would we know? You didn't notice I stopped coming by," I said. "You didn't ask why." My mom sighed. "We've just had a lot going on with your sister." There it was! Not an apology. An explanation that excused everything. "I see," I said. She hesitated. "Are you upset?" "No," I said. And I meant it. After that, the requests changed shape. They became less frequent, more strategic. My parents stopped asking directly for money. Instead, they forwarded Selena's problems and let the implication hang. Selena stopped asking for large amounts and started asking for help navigating things that somehow still ended with me paying. I didn't refuse outright. I didn't confront. I adjusted. When Selena asked me to look over a lease, I asked for the full document and added it to my folder. When my mom asked me to handle a medical bill, I requested itemized statements and saved them. When my dad asked me to help straighten out a tax issue, I asked for copies of prior filings. Each request came with more information than they realized they were giving me. Of what? Of how much support Selena has received. From everyone. My mom's tone sharpened. "Why are you making this transactional?" "She's your sister." "I'm not making it transactional," I said. "It already is. I'm just asking for transparency." Another pause, longer this time. "Well," my mom said, "we don't keep exact records." "I do," I said. She laughed nervously. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, "I need time." I ended the call politely. That night, I didn't sleep much. Not because I was anxious, because my mind was arranging things. The story my family told themselves relied on vagueness, on emotion, on the assumption that I wouldn't push for specifics. They didn't realize that specificity was my language. 2 days later, while reviewing an unrelated contract at work, an alert popped up on my phone. Selena had tagged me in a story. It was a boomerang video of champagne glasses clinking. Location tagged, hashtagged, #blessed#new chapter. I watched it once. Then I opened my folder. The location matched a booking on the concierge statements. Same date, same city. I saved the video. And then I did something I hadn't done before. I emailed myself a summary. Not emotional, not accusatory. Just a clean chronological outline of support provided, misrepresented expenses, and cumulative totals. I attached documents, screenshots, audio files. At the bottom, I wrote one line. Awaiting appropriate moment. Because I didn't want a confrontation, I wanted accuracy. And my family was about to give me the moment themselves. They just didn't know it yet. The invitation came through my mother's email first, then as a group text, then as a follow-up call, just to make sure I saw it. Selena was finally getting what my parents called her break. A national lifestyle network was filming a segment on self-made women and wellness, and Selena had been selected as one of the featured stories. My mom said it like she was announcing an engagement. "They found her online," she told me. Completely organic. I didn't challenge the phrasing. The segment would include an on-camera interview, footage of Selena at work, and a short family moment to show her support system. The producer wanted parents and siblings present for a brunch scene in my parents' backyard. "It would mean so much to her if you came," my mom said.
"This is a big deal. I checked the date."
6 weeks out? Plenty of time. "I'll be there," I said. There was a small intake of breath on the other end of the line, like she hadn't expected compliance. "Really?" "Yes." After we hung up, I forwarded the email to a new folder, public event. Then I called our legal counsel. Not about my family. About media. I asked what kinds of disclosures were required when filming on private property. I asked about releases. I asked about what constituted misrepresentation if a public profile included claims that weren't accurate. I didn't volunteer context. I didn't need to. The answers were enough. Over the next month, Selena became unbearable in a way that only happens when someone feels watched in the right way. She sent voice notes about energy and alignment. She asked my parents to coordinate outfits for the brunch because aesthetic matters. She asked me, casually, like it was nothing, to transfer $5,000 just to smooth things out before filming. I said, "Send me a breakdown."
She didn't. I didn't send the money,
she complained to my parents. They complained to me. "Why are you being difficult now?" my mom asked during one call. This is her moment. "I'm not being difficult," I said. "I'm being consistent." "With what?" my dad asked. "With accountability," I said. He didn't respond to that. Instead, he said, "You know how sensitive she is." I did know that sensitivity never seemed to include awareness of anyone else. As the filming date approached, Selena posted more. Carefully, strategically, she spoke about starting from nothing, about betting on herself, about no safety net. I screenshotted everything. Dates, captions, comments where people praised her grind and independence. One comment stood out. A follower asked how she'd manage startup costs without investors. Selena replied, "Bootstrapped. Lots of sacrifice." I added it to the folder. The week before filming, my mom called with a logistical question. "Can you come a day early?" she asked. "The producer wants to meet everyone, and Selena thought it would look better if we're all there from the start."
Steve? I can, I said. Good, my mom said.
Also, just so you know, Selena asked if you could avoid talking about work. She wants to focus on her journey. "That's fine," I said, and it was, because I didn't plan to talk about my work. I planned to listen. I arrived the day before the shoot with a single suitcase and a calm that surprised even me. My parents' house looked the same. Fresh mulch, new outdoor furniture which I recognized from a charge on my spreadsheet. Selena arrived later that evening, sunglasses on, phone already recording. "There she is," she said, panning the camera toward me. "The mysterious sister?" I smiled lightly. "Hi." She lowered the phone. "Try to look happy tomorrow," she said under her breath. "This is important." "I know," I said. That night, after everyone went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. I wasn't editing. I wasn't adding. I was organizing. I created a single document. Clean formatting, headings, bullet points, dates, financial support, timeline, misrepresented expenses, public claims versus up itself, verifiable records. I linked every claim to a source. Screenshots, bank confirmations, emails, audio transcripts. I included totals. I didn't include opinions. At the bottom, I saved a version labeled, "For reference only." The next morning, the crew arrived at 8. Cameras, cables, clipboards, releases. Everyone signed without reading. I read mine. The producer, a woman in her 40s with efficient movements and neutral curiosity, introduced herself and explained the plan. Backyard brunch, casual conversation, cutaways of Selena working on her laptop. A short sit-down interview. "Just be yourselves," she said, smiling. My mom hovered, offering coffee. My dad asked where to stand. Selena floated through it all like she'd rehearsed in a mirror. When the cameras rolled, Selena came alive. She spoke about resilience, about vision, about trusting herself when no one else did. My parents nodded on cue. At one point, the producer asked, "What role did family play in your journey?" Selena smiled brightly. "Emotional support, belief. But financially, I did it on my own. I wanted to prove I could." My mom squeezed her hand, eyes shining. The camera panned briefly to me. I kept my expression neutral. No one asked me to speak. That was fine. After brunch, the producer pulled Selena aside for the sit-down interview inside. The rest of us were told to take a break. I went to the living room and sat on the couch. My phone buzzed. A message from our legal counsel. "Let me know if you need me on standby tomorrow," I typed back. "Today is sufficient." 10 minutes later, the producer came back into the room. She held a tablet. Her expression had shifted, not alarmed, but alert. "Can I ask you something?" she said, looking at me. "Yes," I said. "Off camera," she added. "Of course." She led me to the kitchen, away from the others. The microphones were still live in the living room, but not here. "We do background checks on featured guests," she said, "mostly to verify claims. There's a discrepancy I'm trying to understand." I waited. "She stated she's fully self-funded," the producer continued, "but there are records suggesting otherwise." Significant support from family. I nodded once. I don't want to derail anything, the producer said carefully, but if this becomes an issue after airing, it reflects poorly on us. I understand, I said. She hesitated. Do you have any insight? I thought of my folder. My timeline! My clean document! I have records, I said, if you need verification. Her eyes sharpened slightly. What kind of records? Financial, I said. Dated. Corroborated. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. Would you be willing to share them? Yes, I said. With one condition. What's that? That it's handled accurately, I said. No commentary, no framing. Just facts. She considered this. We're doing a live family Q&A segment this afternoon, she said slowly. It's meant to be light, but if there's a correction to be made, that would be the moment. I didn't smile. I'll send you the document, I said. I emailed it to her from my phone. No cover letter, no explanation. Just the file. She glanced at her tablet as it came through. Thank you, she said. We'll review. As she walked away, my mom appeared in the doorway. What was that about? She asked. Production question, I said. She frowned. You're not planning to say anything weird, are you? No, I said, and I meant it. Because I wasn't planning to say anything at all. The facts would do that for me. An hour later, the producer gathered us in the backyard again. The cameras were repositioned. The microphones clipped back on. This next part is just a casual Q&A, she said. Family perspective. Selena laughed. Easy. My parents relaxed. I sat in my chair, hands folded, pulse steady. The producer looked at Selena, then at my parents, then at me. Before we start, she said, there's a clarification we need to address. Selena's smile flickered. The camera lights came up, and I knew there was no way back from what was about to happen. The producer didn't raise her voice. She didn't dramatize the moment or pause for effect. She held her tablet at chest height and spoke the way people do when accuracy matters more than comfort. Several financial claims made earlier need clarification, she said, for transparency. Selena's posture stiffened. My mother reached for her water glass and missed it by an inch. The producer continued, specifically regarding funding sources during the initial phase of Selena's business. Selena laughed once, too loudly. I think there's been a misunderstanding. That's what we're here to resolve, the producer said. She turned slightly, angling the tablet so the camera could capture the screen. We've been provided with documentation showing consistent financial support from immediate family members over a period of 3 years. My dad cleared his throat. What kind of documentation? Bank transfers, the producer said. Invoices, corresponding communications. Selena shook her head. This is ridiculous. Families help each other. No one's disputing that, the producer said calmly. What's being clarified is the claim of full self-funding. The camera shifted. I felt the lens pass over me, then settle back on Selena. My mom's voice came out thin. Who gave you those records? The producer didn't answer immediately. She tapped the tablet once. They're verified. Selena turned toward me. Her eyes narrowed, searching my face for denial, for panic, for something she could use. I met her gaze without expression. I didn't say anything, I said when she opened her mouth. The producer resumed. The records indicate approximately $480,000 in combined support. This includes housing, transportation, travel, concierge services, and direct cash transfers. My mom gasped softly. That's not... Selena started. The timeline aligns with periods you described publicly as bootstrapped, the producer added. Selena's voice sharpened. So what? You're going to paint me like a liar on national TV? We're correcting the narrative, the producer said. Live. My dad shifted in his chair. We didn't realize it added up to that much. The producer looked at him. The records include your accounts as well. Silence settled in the backyard. Not the awkward kind, the heavy kind that forces people to notice what they've been stepping around. Selena stood abruptly. This is an ambush. This is an ambush. It's a verification, the producer said. You were given an opportunity to clarify. Selena looked at my mother. You said she wouldn't do this. My mom's mouth opened, then closed. I didn't do anything. I said again. I provided documents when asked. Selena laughed. Brittle. You always had to be right. No, I said. I had to be accurate. The producer addressed the camera. For viewers, it's important to distinguish between self-funded ventures and family-backed ventures. Both are valid. They're just not the same. Selena's face flushed.
Cut the cameras!
The producer shook her head slightly. We're live! That word landed. Selena looked around, realizing too late that this wasn't a private conversation she could reframe later. Comments were already coming in. Owns buzzed. A crew member glanced at another, eyes wide. My mom whispered my name, but I didn't turn. The producer concluded, We'll update the segment description to reflect accurate funding sources. She nodded once, a professional full stop. The cameras went down. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Selena rounded on me. You humiliated me. I didn't speak, I said. You knew, she said. You planned this. I documented what was asked of me, I said. That's all. My dad sat heavily. Why didn't you tell us? I did, I said. In numbers. Over years, my mom's eyes filled. We were just trying to help her. I know, I said. Selena grabbed her bag. I can't believe you do this to family. I watched her walk to her car. She didn't look back. That afternoon, the producer thanked me quietly before leaving. You handled that with restraint, she said. Not everyone would. I wasn't trying to handle anything, I said. Just close the loop. The segment never aired as originally planned. Instead, a shorter piece ran, weeks later, reframed around transparency in entrepreneurship. Selena declined to participate further. The fallout wasn't explosive, it was structural. Brands pulled back. Questions followed. My parents stopped covering expenses they couldn't ignore anymore. Selena moved back home. I didn't gloat. I didn't explain myself to extended family. I saw Manchester at home. When relatives called with half-formed opinions, I listened and said little. I sent one email to my parents. It included a final spreadsheet, totals, dates, and a line at the end. I won't be participating financially going forward. I'm open to rebuilding relationships that don't involve money. They didn't reply right away. When they did weeks later, it was shorter than usual, less confident, no requests. I stayed where I was. Work continued, quiet growth, long-term decisions, my equity vested. Our company crossed numbers that required board meetings instead of celebration posts. When a business news program featured us months later, I watched from my couch with the sound low. My parents found out when someone else mentioned it. They didn't call immediately. That was fine. I wasn't invisible anymore. I just wasn't available. I learned something important through all of it. Being overlooked can be an advantage if you're paying attention. You can build without interference. You can prepare without announcement. You can leave and see who notices. And when the truth finally comes into the light, you don't have to raise your voice. You just have to make sure the records are clear. And because they were careless, because they'd never had to be precise with me, I noticed things. Dates that didn't line up, charges that repeated. Stories that shifted depending on who was listening. One afternoon, while reconciling a set of invoices Selena had sent me to explain why she needed help that month, I noticed something familiar. A vendor name.
It wasn't a brand partner. It wasn't a management agency.
It was a personal concierge service. I searched my folder. The name appeared again and again. Over 18 months. Same vendor. Different descriptions. Always framed as business-related. Always paid by someone else. I opened my spreadsheet and filtered by vendor. The total made my chest feel very still. I didn't call Selena. I didn't text my parents. I pulled bank statements. I pulled confirmations. I cross-referenced dates with Selena's social media posts. Trips she'd labeled work travel, dinners she'd called meetings. The concierge service specialized in luxury bookings, private transport, short-term rentals, lifestyle management. It wasn't illegal, it was dishonest. And it was being funded by a combination of my parents' savings and my quiet transfers. I added a new column to the spreadsheet. Purpose, claimed versus purpose, actual. The contrast didn't need commentary. A week later, my mom called again, voice tight. We need to talk about Selena, she said. I listened. She's under a lot of pressure, my mom continued. And frankly, We're stretched thin right now. How so? I asked. Well, your father's retirement accounts aren't as liquid as we thought, she said. And with the market, I waited. So we're hoping you can help bridge the gap, she finished. I looked at the calendar. I looked at the numbers. I can help with clarity, I said. What do you mean? I said slowly, before I contribute anything else, I need a full picture. There was a pause.